Suk Tae, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Let's first of all get your reaction to this and what your view is as to what happens next and what the implications are for people investing in the South and indeed people investing generally.
I see. So the bottom line is that the next year the Korea would be in the top list in the global geopolitics. And surely I think the Korean peg factors would be one of the top things in the South Korean economic outlook. But at this juncture, as you said, anything can happen in North Korea. It's very, very tough to predict anything in North Korea. So at this moment, what you could say is that at least in the midterm, in the whole next year, the uncertainties around the North Korea should be very heightened. And having said that, what I focus is actually the funeral process of the Kim Jong Il. Basically in any socialist state, funeral should be very important. And then I think maybe watching the funeral, process, we should at least somehow get information. We should get some information whether the Kim Jong Un, the son of the Kim Jong Il and maybe the heir apparent, has secured a power or not. So I think if the Kim Jong Un clearly is having some control, and at least he is seen in the front line of the funeral process, I think that maybe we could think that his the power succession process to him is pretty secured. So I think maybe we should closely watch that funeral process. And for your reference, in 1994, when the Kim Il-sung died, Kim Jong Il clearly secured the leadership in the funeral process. So I think we should carefully watch that funeral process. And for other important issue regarding the funeral process is whether this South Korea and U.S. Should send some envoy to that funeral process. And at least in 1994, not a single people, came, from the U.S. or from the South Korea. But clearly,
let me just tell you something. Yeah, Suk Tae, I have, the funeral is December the 28th. I can also tell you that we've already heard from Pyongyang saying that they do not want foreign dignitaries to actually come and pay their respects on that funeral as well. So, that's pretty much stopping anything that Washington or indeed Seoul can do in terms of monitoring events.
Yeah, but I think maybe, there's some, that announcement, but then the situation can be changed in the next, 10 days. So maybe we should actually open the, possibilities that there could be some, opportunity to, they change or improve the, the relationship. Of course, I think maybe, that kind of, the denial, or some kind of, the objection from the North can be a sign that anyway, basically for the North Korea, I think they should keep it as their own event. So I think it's pretty understandable. But anyway, I think, the funeral process itself should be very important. And maybe, again, if Kim Jong-un is, watch it in the public appearance, then I think it should be some signs that the situation is well controlled. So if that's true, then the market would be, maybe get back to some, restore some calm. But of course, it's very near-term, thing. Basically, in the 2012, maybe situation should be very fluid in the North Korea.
What about Seoul itself? You're there. I mean, I know this is breaking news and developing story. Well, it's a breaking story. But what about the mood there amongst the people in the South's capital?
So I think the people are pretty shocked. But in some senses, I think that people are somehow ready for this kind of event, because everybody knows that the Kim Jong Il's health was pretty bad. So this is actually, in some senses, quite well anticipated event. And so I think maybe, I know that, the 1994 when the Kim Il-sung died, some Korean people were afraid of war. and buy some food from the supermarket. But I think that, right now, I don't think that the South Korean people are afraid of any war. But anyway, I think the people are pretty nervous. Maybe not because they are afraid that the war would be broken at, the near term, but people are quite, the nervous that basically in the next few years, the situation, with the, North Korea should be very fluid. So what I think is that in the very near term, this is quite anticipated event. But in the second thought, people worried that, what would happen in next year? What would happen in, 2013? And maybe by the third thought, some people should also think that what's the impact of this, the sudden, event from North Korea onto the big political events we should see in next year. Basically, we have both parliamentary election and the presidential election in next year. So some people would clearly be keen, to analyze any impact on these two, big political events.
I've got to interrupt you there. So Suk